Hey, you Grateful Dead fans. Well, you know, a lot of people write in, email, call, and want to know what's the right wine to serve with my Grateful Dead. Should I serve a red, white? Should be a 77, 85, a 92, 2003. You know, what vintage Dead should I serve my guests while I'm putting on whatever I'm putting on? Because I don't do it like that. I go to the vintage of the Dead to match the wine that I'm drinking. In other words, the wine comes first, and then we select the appropriate vintage of the Dead. For example, now, if we're just chugging down some 2004 Markham here, you know, a Merlot. Now, with a Merlot, the Dead you need to go with Merlot is a vintage around 74. That's the appropriate quality, the fruitiness, and the flavor, and the bouquet from a 74 Dead show goes perfectly with a 2004 Merlot. Now, it's a complicated mathematical formula how you get there. You take the square root of the wine bottle, the Oedipus Rex complex multiplied by 3, divide by the square root of both, and you come up, and it'll work out that you can take the year of the vintage of the wine. It'll tell you what year of the Dead goes with the wine, but it's a little too complicated to get into here. But so I'm just going to pass along some of my favorites to you. For 2004, you're going to want something in 74. And I would recommend the soundtrack to the Grateful Dead movie, which is highly produced, great sound, excellent stuff. One drummer, of course. Mickey's taken a year or two off at that point. Phil's crisp and clean. Phil is just tremendous. Bob, you can hear him crystal clear, sounding great. So when you're serving your 2004 Merlot, you're going to want a 74 show. Now, moving along, if you're serving some Dom or Piper Heidsieck or Cristal, whatever champagne you're having for dinner, you're going to want a New Year's show, of course. So I always come back. It's only recently available to connoisseurs of the Grateful Dead, but this Cow Palace show, tremendous, clean, good, 76. A 76 show goes very nice with champagne. You can also try an 82. You can try an 89. It's not my taste, but you can always go with a 76 and count on it. You know, a lot of the fans ask me, well, how do you properly store your Grateful Dead vintages? I mean, this is not like wine. We do not need overly climate-controlled, light-controlled environment here for our Dead. Anything between 38 degrees and about 92 degrees is all right. And humidity from 40 to 60 won't hurt a CD. You know, if you have LPs, it may be a little different situation. But pretty much, you keep your discs upright in the case. You know, don't get them out of the case and let them slide around and tend to scratch your CD. But overall, a lot easier to maintain a vintage Grateful Dead collection than it is to maintain a vintage wine collection. You know, the reason's obvious. When you do select your Dead vintage, there's no need to swirl it around. You don't have to, you know, you might want to read the cuts on the back, but other than that, you don't have to mix it up. You don't have to put it in your mouth at all. Just keep it, you know, arm's length, and you know, where you can see it good. And take a look, make sure that's what you want to serve your guests, and off you go. You'll find that once you open the case of a Grateful Dead vintage, it tends to open up. And you know, some of the tanginess that may have accumulated in the CD case over a period of time, if you haven't been paying close attention to your discology here, you know, tend to open up, and you get it into the CD. You know, maybe one good swipe on the old sweatshirt, and you're good to go. You know, slip it in the CD, and bing, you got some good Grateful Dead there. Now, of course, these days whites are very popular. The wife likes the Pinot Grigio. You know, Chardonnay, Chablis, but Pinot Grigio, especially the 2006 Pinot Grigio, you're only talking about one thing at that point, man. That's a 77 show. And you got to get that same openness and crystal clear sound to match the wine. The Pinot is just going to appreciate the 77 shows. They're routinely good. I mean, I would even stretch and say that you could serve it up some vintage 77 dead with a rosé. But we're talking about Pinot Grigio now. I recommend the 77s. I would stick to the April and May vintage. May, June, you can slide into June if you like. One of the fans wrote in and says, Darks, how do I handle a Chardonnay? Yeah, it's a little fruitier, a little sweeter than Pinot, which is, of course, dry. But for Chardonnay, my recommendation would be to go with a 78, 79 in there. You're going to love it. A 78 vintage dead will open up a Chardonnay like no corkscrew. And you're going to sit back and you're really going to get the full benefit of the 78 and the Chardonnay together. That's try that one out. I guarantee you, you're going to enjoy a 78 show with Chardonnay. Well, I mean, it's always a problem once you get past 85. Now you're in the last 10 years of the dead there, and my preference, although there are several that I enjoy, I'm dropping off at that point. But I do listen to a post-85 show from time to time, and when I do, I enjoy a port. Now here we have this is a Vinho de Porto Messias 1984 port, you know, very rare. But this is what I'll have with an 85 show. For example, right here we've got Dick's Pick 21, kicks off with dancing, and now you're moving into a little, you know, late period dead. You know, little port, not too, you know, have to be judicious with it. You can't overdo a port, but you'll find it's very nice with post-85. There's a lot of other vintages. We could go on talking for hours about the proper vintage dead to serve with our wines. I'm sure you have your favorites, and I'd love to hear them. Now let's move on. Now, one of the most common questions I get is, how do you handle a pre-71 vintage dead? And that's a good question, because in the period, you know, 65 to 71, with certain important exceptions, Live Dead being one of them, and Working Man's American Beauty being another. And of course, with that's where you might try that rosé, is with American Beauty, of course. But in those early years, those vintages, they can be almost as tricky as wine, because you can open one of them up and it's just not good. The quality was not the same. You got to be very careful. But I would say, if you're going to serve up a pre-71 vintage dead, I would stick to beer. I think that's your best bet. I would not consume a good wine in a pre-71 show. Just that's my opinion. But I mean, if you have to, I mean, I would try Ladies and Gentlemen. You know, Fillmore show, Fillmore East, April 71. That's about as far back as I'd go. But I just, you know, stick to the beer, and you'll be okay. Now, of course, maybe you're just sitting around, you know, having some goose. You're doing your Grey Goose, you're smearing off whatever, some vodka on it, you know, cold, ice cold. And now, of course, at that point, we're going to switch over. We got to get over to a like an 80s Jerry band, 1980, all good year vintage Jerry band. I'm kind of partial to the Kane College show. Very open, and I think you'll find it goes very good with your vodka. Up on, you know, cold, ice cold vodka, 80s Jerry band. That's my preference, and I invite you to try it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Now listen, in the cold winter months, you're going to be drinking some scotch, no doubt, around the fireplace. You're going to sit back and pour yourself two fingers some Chivas Regal or Johnny Walker, whatever your preference is, maybe some Glenfiddich, you know. But now we're going to find ourselves in a 72-73 situation. 72 show goes perfectly with a something brown, and you serve up some vintage 72 dead with your brown. You're going to enjoy it a great deal. There's nothing that will bring a party to life quicker than bringing out an appropriate Grateful Dead vintage to your guests, and there you go. See ya.